everyone, welcome to today's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how your Tuesday is going. Hopefully, it's as good as mine. Thanks to Paris Lilly, obviously, everyone knows Paris. I was able to get into the Battlefield 6 beta. He sent me over a code that was provided to him by EA, which, again, shout out to EA and Paris Lilly for the code. I'm in, I'm locked, I'm loaded. I can't wait. I'm very excited. Lots of happenings in the gaming world, and right at the center of all of the, let's just say, questions, Jamie Moran, is Jez Corden of Windows Central. Is he trolling? Is he being honest? Does he know something? What does he know? How much does he know? Do we need to put his toes to the fire to find out? Well, what I'm talking about is what you saw for the thumbnail, and that is, among other things, something big happening in the form of an Xbox announcement that could come the way of a PlayStation announcement. And you know what? Could be Sunset Overdrive, could be Spider-Man, could be Days Gone. And you're saying, wait a second, Boom, this is too much to take. You're out of your gourd. Well, I'm going to break down all of the tweets that have been fast and furious in the last 24 hours that really have piqued a lot of Xbox gamers' interests into getting some Sony games to come over. Now, listen, I'm sure there's going to be a troll or three in the chat that says, you Xbox support begging. So what? You got all the Xbox games. I think it's only fair that Xbox players get some PlayStation games. And you know what? Those three games happen to be dope. And I will buy every one of them if they do come to Xbox. But of course, that's not the only topic of conversation. Jamie Moran, we're going to be getting into some of the Xbox Magnus conversation. We do have a tweet here and a breakdown regarding the Magnus APU and its rumored power and exactly how many, and I say many, OEM Xbox devices could in fact show up next year. But Jamie Moran, good afternoon, kind sir. How are you feeling?
Hey man, happy to be here. It's a good time to be a gamer. I'm excited about the Battlefield beta, which is something that's been burnt by Battlefield about, I feel like 8 times in a row now. This looks like it could be it. So I'm excited. It's going to be a good week.
Yeah, you know what? It is going to be a good week. Listen, again, folks, if you're wondering, it's just going to be the elusive gamer, aka Mr. Mass Effect, and myself. Umbra, his body gave out. And obviously he works midnights. He's probably going to be joining us, though, on Friday's show, which, of course, is Breakfast at Boom. And I'm writing that show as we speak. Obviously, we have to let the week play out. It's only Tuesday. I do have a bunch of conversations that we have not had. And one of the conversations we're going to have that I'm writing an original topic for Friday's Breakfast at Boom is thanks to Okami_13 on Twitter. First of all, incredible content creator. And he put out a tweet that really got me thinking. Like, we're still in 2025, right? We're only in July. We still have another 5 months to go. And we're going to have a lot of games from now to then. Of course, closing out the big year that we're having as gamers, no matter what platform you're on, because of course, if you're on Xbox, you're eating well. If you're on PlayStation, you're getting fed by a lot of Xbox games. If you're on Nintendo Switch, well, obviously Nintendo Switch 2 released this year, so everybody is doing well and enjoying their console of choice. But 2026 lineup already is ridiculous. And that is on top of the 25th anniversary of Master Chief and Halo Combat Evolved and the actual Xbox platform. It is going to be a party next year. Cannot wait to get into it. But Jamie, listen, let's just get right into this Sunset Overdrive remaster and the fact that it could, in fact, be happening soon. So, look, I'm all about evidence-based conversation. You fine folks know that, right? I get opinions. Everyone has one, right? And you're entitled to yours. Not wrong, not right, but it's an opinion. Now, sometimes opinions are a little ridiculous, but there are others that kind of make sense. So, Insomniac Games is a developer that is owned by PlayStation Studios. And they are responsible for all of the Spider-Man games, Spider-Man 2018, the follow-up Spider-Man's Miles Morales, and of course Spider-Man 2, where it featured both heroes, including a new take on Venom. They also have done Ratchet and Clank. They've done their history as a studio is storied. One of my favorite PlayStation developers, Ted Price, who recently walked away from the company. He's retiring. He's not fired. He is retiring. He's been in the business for over 30 years. Is one of my favorite studios of the industry as a whole. Now, again, folks, I get it. There's going to be some people in the chat that I always say that your mileage is going to vary based on how you like the Spider-Man games or you don't, or you like Ratchet and Clank or you don't. And that's fine if you don't. But Jamie, again, when I say evidence-based conversation, I don't mind opinions. I like having my own. I like listening to others. I like having the chat get involved in the conversation and give theirs. It's what makes this show so much fun. But recently, Insomniac Games has been doing some things, ladies and gentlemen. A couple of weeks ago, they tweeted about Spider-Man 2018 for no reason. Right now, granted, some people would equate that to, it was Spider-Man Day, coming up, but it was a week before of it, and it didn't mention of it. So, of course, we do know that Helldivers 2 is coming on August 26th. It's selling very well on Xbox. We don't have the exact numbers, but I would imagine that after it releases, we will. And that release, I think, really did crack open the door for what PlayStation is going to do. Now, obviously, what sent PlayStation Nation into a tizzy was the announcement of this new position that is going to focus on hardware outside of PlayStation, meaning, PC, Xbox, Nintendo Switch 2, and mobile. Now, the Xbox part is, of course, why we're here, what we're talking about. Now, we do have a couple of tweets from Insomniac Games. This was August 3rd. And completely out of nowhere, they start talking about Sunset Overdrive. And it says this, and this is the official Insomniac Games Twitter account. Even the brightest, beautiful sunrises pale in comparison to Fizzy's brighter, way more beautiful laser eyes. And it's a video of the Fizzy character about to melt your character in the game with its laser eyes. Now, obviously, what does that mean? Well, it's just a tweet. But why would they tweet about that? Like, just out of the blue. So I did some digging. And I found some stories that came the way of early May, late June. And this is one of the rumors that came out. And this is, folks, again, this is not made up. I literally have it pulled. It's in front of me. And it gets very specific on some things. So, Jamie, before I bring you in on the potential of Sunset Overdrive getting a remaster, I want to read you exactly the hot information that I have. And it says this, folks, and again, take it with a grain of salt. It is a rumor, all right? I want that to be clear. And it says this, ladies and gentlemen. A rumor suggests that a Sunset Overdrive remaster is in development and may be shadow dropped at an upcoming Xbox showcase. The remaster is reportedly being developed by Blind Squirrel Games, with Insomniac Games overseeing the project. It's also rumored to be a multi-platform release coming to PlayStation 5, PC, and Switch 2, as well as Xbox. The game is expected to run at 4K, 120 frames per second on the PS5, and Xbox Series X, and at 1440p 60 frames on the Series S and the Nintendo Switch 2. Additionally, the remaster may also include new costumes inspired by Spyro, Ratchet and Clank, and Resistance. Now, folks, I did not write that. That is what I'm reading verbatim. And you know what's interesting, Jamie? We are in a position right now where, talking with Kay Asante, talking with Everborn, when you talk about us versus them or PlayStation versus Xbox or Xbox versus PlayStation, what was brought to my attention speaking to those two gentlemen is that you don't consider a partner your rival, right? Now, we know that Xbox is working with PlayStation and PlayStation is working with Xbox, right? I mean, this is facts. But something like something like Sunset Overdrive, for instance, is a real tricky one because, as you know, the actual IP was retained by Insomniac Games, who was owned by Sony Interactive Entertainment. So they own the IP. Interestingly enough, though, if you're wondering why you haven't seen Sunset Overdrive ported to PlayStation as of yet, or even a sequel, it's because the publishing rights are still retained by Microsoft. And again, more interesting news about that is that the publishing rights belong to Microsoft because they didn't get a sequel, a 2 and 3. And if a 2 and 3 is made, those are going to be published by Xbox. And again, it's a very tricky legal situation going on. The rights, the actual IP rights, Insomniac Games owns, and of course, Insomniac Games is owned by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Publishing is owned by Xbox, when Xbox is owned by Microsoft. This is one of those situations that I would absolutely think it would be one of the best stories to hear about the year is two behemoth publishers working together to put out a game on all platforms that's going to sell. Now, granted, someone actually had said in a tweet to me, Jamie, that if this did happen, they would hope that Microsoft would give a free upgrade if you own the game digitally. And I thought about it and I said, that's not such a bad idea because they did that with Gears of War Reloaded. Like if you owned the remake or the remaster of the original Gears of War that came out on the Xbox One, you got the Xbox Reloaded for free. And I can see them actually doing the same thing for Sunset Overdrive. And if you saw by the thumbnail, it's the Fizzy edition. That's me. I just added some flair to it. It's not called that. I don't know if it's gonna if it even exists. But if I were doing it, it would be Sunset Overdrive, the Fizzy edition, because obviously that's funny and it's a pun for the game. Jamie Moran, can this actually happen? And that's a very specific breakdown that came out with me doing some research on Sunset Overdrive's potential remake. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I think it's possible. If you go back to last, and I'm going to go deep with this one. If you go back to last generation, around 2013, let's say 2014, 2015, we were getting lots of remasters, lots of them, and people were complaining about there being way too many. But I mean, we didn't have backwards compatibility at that point, and honestly, at that point in the generation, publishers didn't actually have many games for that generation. They were all scrambling because they thought everyone was going to move to tablets and stuff. Anyway, that's a story for another day. But this time around, the industry's kind of falling apart. AAA games are costing hundreds of millions of dollars. So, like, what's a way to make extra money? Port some games to other platforms and bring some older games back. Because upping the resolution of a game like this, popping in a new skin and making it 60 frames per second isn't really going to break the bank for these companies, so they can make extra money and make a return on investment super quick. because you have the Xbox fan base, which already knows the game. You have the fans that love the game; they're going to buy it. You have I think Nintendo Switch, if anything, is going to be the biggest thing for this game. Big colorful platform, all that stuff, and PlayStation, I'm sure it'll do fine there as well. Although I really hope on social media I don't see a single person that made fun of that game talk about it, because that game got dragged through the mud back in the day.
It did. It really did.
And I was on Twitter back then. It was like an apocalyptic wasteland back in 2014. Let me tell you. But I could see it happening. They'll make some money from it and maybe generate some new interest in the IP. Like, I've been wanting a sequel since the first game came out, right? The way that game ends, I won't say for people who haven't played it, but oh my God, such a cool idea. It's just a fun game. I hope it happens. And, it is one of the few Microsoft published games that didn't get an FPS boost or resolution enhancement. So I always thought that was a bit weird. And, like, hopefully with this, it will shed some light on the game and give it the attention it deserves. Because, like, when that game came out, people were just talking about 900p this. They weren't talking about the fun gameplay, the cool music. They weren't talking about any of that. They were just talking about this crap that doesn't matter. And I hope it's true, because I'd love to play through it again, get some new achievements, and it's a fun game. You can't really go wrong with it. It's if you look at what they did with Spider-Man, you could tell that they learned a lot from Sunset Overdrive with the wall running mechanic and all that. I mean, there's the Sunset Overdrive all over Spider-Man, and I'm sure Spider-Man fans they haven't played it, so they wouldn't know, but it's all over there. I think it's likely, a lot of these companies will look at their older back catalog, even just from last generation, to see how they can squeeze more money out of it. I know it sounds horrible when you say it like that, but the truth is, like, these games take way too long to make. So, like, you're gonna have remasters of games, and upgrades of games. And with Microsoft publishing the first game, I'm sure they'll do the whole free upgrade thing. I've hated the idea of paying for upgrades, because if you're on PC, you don't buy a fancy new NVIDIA graphics card and have to pay for the Ultra Pack. PC gamers wouldn't have that, as they shouldn't. So, like, on console, we shouldn't pay for it either. I think the whole concept of paying for upgrades is stupid. But I hope it's true. I think it's true, because if you just look at the catalog for Microsoft this year, like, they have a really busy year. Lots of cool games coming. Next year is looking good already. Like, padding it out even more with, like, games like this, it could be really successful for them. And, like, I don't know how the money situation would work with Microsoft. Like, would they make the money off this? Would they make part of it? Whatever. But either way, I'll be happy to play the game again, and I'm sure millions of others will as well.
I see a lot of people in the chat saying it wouldn't sell well. Look, how much of a household name is Sunset Overdrive? I honestly, I don't know. I beat it. I loved it. We did not we don't have an upgrade for it for the current consoles. Jamie made mention of that, right? I think there's an opportunity to see a game that came out, very early in the Xbox One era, that, like Jamie said, got a bit lambasted by games media. Why? Because it was an Xbox exclusive. Insomniac Games, they only make PlayStation. You remember that? Remember the whole rigmarole about how, Insomniac Games is a PlayStation studio. Now, at the time, they were independent. Obviously, they got purchased later on, and it's probably one of the. I would say that the two best game studio purchases in all of gaming. Now, again, one of those situations where opinions are going to differ. For me personally, on the PlayStation side, out of all the studios that they currently own, Insomniac Games is by far tip of spear. For Xbox, it's Obsidian. And a perfect example of that is Obsidian's putting out 3 games. Grounded 2, which, again, not for me, not a game for me, but so many people, especially Nico, shout out to Nico, who might be in the chat, or he might actually be playing games with his 9-year-old. They're loving it. He's consistently, I don't know where that guy finds the time to play as many games as he does, but he plays a lot of games. So shout out to Nico, one of the coolest dads in the chat for sure. But I love this idea. I love the idea because this could be one of those situations where there's no blurring of the lines. It's just PlayStation working with Xbox and Xbox working with PlayStation. And folks, I know people want to run the console war rhetoric. I totally get it. And there are some people that do it really well. And, those are the people that I don't really watch. We're talking about the real toxic PlayStation gamers that want to come out and tell you that everything Xbox does is bad and there's no way games are coming over and whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Things are happening. This is one of those situations, Jamie Moran, where I actually can see Sunset Overdrive coming out as a remaster or a remake, whatever you want to call it, and it getting a release everywhere. Again, it's an IP that is owned by Sony Interactive Entertainment, and it's just weird how Microsoft owns the publishing rights. And they own the publishing rights because when the deal was struck with Insomniac and they were purchased by Sony, that contract didn't go away. And that contract had multiple sequels for Sunset Overdrive because they thought it was going to be an IP that was going to move forward. And ever since it came out, it did half decently, I suppose. I don't know what the Metascore is. Anybody can throw it in the chat. I'll let you know. Shout out to Rain G4. What's up, brother? Nice to see you here. Thanks so much for joining us. But I do really love this story. Again, folks, I could not have, on my best guess, came up with the fact that it would have been made by what studio that I gotta go look. I gotta actually look in my notes because I don't remember what the studio is. Hold on, I'll tell you what it is right now. The studio that's working on is Blind Squirrel Games. Like, I couldn't have pulled that out of my hat if I tried. So the information that I have or that I presented is, of course, a rumor. So, take it as such. But, I want to segue into something that happened yesterday that really got, again, it's one of those conversations, folks. I don't know how many people on, your favorite creator is going to be talking about this. Listen, I read a lot and I pull a lot of stories, and I like to bring conversation to the community that others aren't having because it's fun, right? It doesn't have to be us versus them or pony versus bot, right? There's that, sure, but that gets a little boring. So yesterday, and I mentioned his name, Jez Corden of Windows Central, one half of the Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor. Jez put out a tweet, and I had to double, and it's Jez. So you don't know whether he's, had a couple, or he's, kind of trolling, or maybe he's not. He put out a tweet stating, Jamie, that Days Gone was coming to Xbox, right? And of course, people in Xbox freaked out. Look, there are people in this community that are just waiting for the needle to drop, right? Whether that be Spider-Man, whether that be Days Gone, Returnal, Last of Us. Don't let it be God of War for some of these folks, right? And they're doing it because it's going to be a big story or stories, and it's going to really set PlayStation on a path that no one, including myself, ever would have thought they would have taken themselves, right? But there are gamers like myself who own all of these games. They're sitting right here. I got the steel book for every game I just mentioned. I have the steel book. I had the collector's edition for. I really like PlayStation games. Their games are games that I enjoy because they are single player, story driven, adult themed, movie like games. I like that. It's appealing to the eye. They do it really well. Now, some people in this chat are gonna be like, yeah, boo, I don't like it, Boom. Okay, Not a problem. If you don't like them, some people, call them they're too samey. They all look the same, just a different character. That's a fair assessment. They all have that over the shoulder, behind the back look, and that's just the way Sony tells their stories. Is that wrong? For you, maybe, not for me, right? But something like Days Gone, why I continue to talk about this game coming over is for a couple of reasons, Jamie. And we've actually had this conversation, but again, I want to have this conversation one more time because of what happened yesterday, specifically with Jez Corden, but the follow-up by Ben Studios. We'll get to that in a second. Let's see. Okay, so real quick, some Sin in the chat. Welcome, brother, as always. Nice to see you here. He says, according to Musical Weapon, Until Dawn could very well be the next game announced. Brother, I'm gonna tell you this right now. The original Until Dawn is God tier on PlayStation, no question. Now, I know that it's funny. I bought the remake, even though I said I wasn't. I got it on sale. I fell for FOMO. Until Dawn is probably some of the best looking graphics on the PS4 today. There's just no question. It's stunning, right? It's up there with the Order 1888, which is phenomenal. Another phenomenal game that just came and went. What a shame we're not going to get a sequel. The sequel was going to be even better than the original. Awesome, right? But these games coming over should not be a surprise, Jamie, based on what is happening in the industry. You talked about it, ballooning budgets, not enough people buying games. Why aren't gamers? And I saw something, I'm not going to mention the guy's name because one, I don't want to embarrass anybody, and two, I don't want to promote their rhetoric. Somebody on Twitter said yesterday that Xbox, I said it to you, Jamie, Xbox Game Pass was too good for its own good. And that's why Xbox don't buy games.
Yeah.
The craziest thing I've ever seen, but whatever, fine. And the reason why something like a Days Gone could potentially come over is for, a couple of reasons, and they're true to life, real reasoning, right? This isn't just Boom's opinion. I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it for context again. Ben Studios is a phenomenal developer. Ben Studios also has not released a new IP or game since 2019's Days Gone. So we are now in 2025. We know, thanks to Sony, that they were working on a multiplayer gas game. And that was canceled last month or the month before. So all of the work that they put into what potentially could be millions of dollars worth of development work is now in the garbage. That's more losses for Sony Interactive Entertainment. What do you honestly do with this studio? Do you close them down? That would be a terrible mistake because they're a talented group of people at Ben Studios, right? Is it their fault that they haven't been working on anything new since 2019? No, it's actually Sony's fault because the leadership there were really adamant about doing a Days Gone 2. And I've said this before and I will say it again. I have a strong suspicion that Days Gone 2 would have been the Uncharted 2 moment that The Last of Us studio had all those years ago. Uncharted 1 was good. Uncharted 2, God tier good. Right? So I really believe that Ben Studios could have had that because they made the world. We had some characters. The Horde was scary as F, and they wanted to make the second one, and Sony put the kibosh on that. So since 2019, they haven't been doing anything. Look, what do? with the studio like that. You've been you've been keeping the lights on. They had a bit. I remember they had a bunch of layoffs as well, but they still have a bunch of people working there. What do you do with these folks? You don't close the studio. They're talented. Don't get rid of the studio. You have them help bring forth this port of Days Gone. So what I'm talking about, Jamie Moran, and why it's even a conversation is, again, Jez Corden had tweeted about potentially, and again, it was joke. He was joking. He wasn't being serious about Days Gone coming to Xbox. Ben Studios replied, and that it's simply in no words, just an emoji with the eyeglass on over the eye. Now, what does that mean? Am I grasping at straws? Am I being an Xbox, ladies and gentlemen? Maybe, but I'll tell you what. Unlike a lot of the Sony dudes that go unnamed on this program, I would actually happily buy Days Gone on Xbox, and you could check me playing it if it was out, because I don't hide anything. All my stuff is visible and ready to be viewed by the public. No problem. That got, check this out. I want to talk about the engagement, right? It got 554 retweets, 940 replies, 7,000, nearly 8,000 likes, right? Let me see if I can see the engagement. Let's see if I can find the engagement on here. I don't think I can. Let me see. No, I can't really see. No, I can't. For some reason, I can't see the engagement, but it was viewed 900 and it has 971,000 views, which means that this is a hot topic. This is the conversation that people want to have. Days Gone is a fantastic game. I did not beat it, but I played enough of it to know that it is a fantastic game. Jamie Moran, I want to get your thoughts on this. Again, I know that we've talked about Spider-Man in the past. Insomniac has been super, froggy with posting stuff like that. They just posted some Sunset Overdrive stuff. I just read you the rumor. But Days Gone, is this a possibility? Again, it was already ported to PC. The port to Xbox would not be an expensive trek for Sony. And the fact that they kind of responded in a way that was incredibly cheeky. What are your thoughts, man?
It would sell. I think zombie games are incredibly popular. And, look at the State of Decay fan base. They would eat this up. Now, could it happen? Absolutely. And the funny thing about Days Gone is that, Days Gone, brand new IP, sold over 10 million copies, and Sony has no interest in doing a sequel, mainly because of the Metacritic score.
Yeah.
I think that's a travesty. Right? I actually think Metacritic was a mistake, but what a travesty. Like, can you imagine any other publisher having a brand new IP, selling 10 million copies and going, you know what? No sequel. Bloody ridiculous. But then putting it on different PC stuff once it's going to work out good for them. But putting it on Xbox, look, I've seen in chat multiple times already, oh, you're going to be able to play it on your Xbox Ally. It's like, cool, but that doesn't help me, right? I have no intention of getting a PC, gaming handheld anytime soon. I'm a console gamer. Unless Microsoft wants to send me out a review copy, then
yeah, absolutely, I'll take one.
But there's millions of people at home that will want to play this on the Xbox, and I have seen if you go to the tweet and look at the replies, it's a lot of people thinking, oh, it's an Xbox, a hint. We live in this multi-platform world now. Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox this month. It's a big deal. I bet Sony's they keep a close eye on this because it's going to sell well. It's a third-person shooter where you shoot aliens and robots. Of course, it's going to do well. And if you really think about it, it doesn't really feel like we get a lot of third-person games these days. Maybe that's just me. It's been a long week, and it's only Tuesday. God help me now. But I think it would do well on Xbox, and people are freaking out in those replies. I'm going to throw my PlayStation in the bin, all this stuff. Like, people would legitimately buy this, right? I've said multiple times, like, I would buy this if it comes to Xbox, right? It's a open world zombie game. You play as a biker. Sold, right? Um, and Sony putting Helldivers on Xbox, it's obviously testing the market, right? I've said before, and I'll say it again. Like, these games are sitting on a server somewhere, just not generating money on their main platform anymore. Not because they aren't good games, it's because like I've said before, all these games have maximum sales potential on each platform. I predicted Sea of Thieves going elsewhere before the multi-platform rumors for the exact same reason, right? If you weren't picking up an Xbox in 2024 to play Sea of Thieves, you pretty much were never going to do that, right? Same with Days Gone on other platforms. I think Days Gone and Spider-Man will be the first games over. Said it before, I'll say it again. They would be huge on Xbox. You know, as much as I say people love zombie games, we don't have a game like Days Gone on Xbox. So I think it would do well. Sony, they're dipping their toes in the multi-platform stuff. They started really with the PC releases and putting Lego Horizon on Switch day one. By the way, no one batted an eye about that one. So this would do well. Now, will it happen? I don't. By the way, I don't think that emoji had anything to do with them hinting at Xbox. It's just them having fun.
Yeah, they were just being cheeky. Sure. Yeah.
And people are going to read into everything these companies do, but it's expected. And I mean, we will see. But do I see another PlayStation game coming to Xbox this year? I think they could maybe release one more. There's a couple of months in between the announcement of Helldivers and it releasing this month, so potentially I think we can get one more game from PlayStation this year. It'll work out really well for them. Like, I know we're talking about Days Gone, but if you look at Spider-Man, right, there isn't really an open world superhero game on Xbox right now in a living world, right? All the Arkham games are empty for very convenient reasons. The city's been evacuated, everyone's in lockdown, right? Very convenient. But in Spider-Man, you have an alive city. We don't have that on Xbox, so that would generate so much money. And I always say, and you posted about this last night, the concept of Xbox guys not buying games, I've always thought is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because most Xbox fans don't actually subscribe to Game Pass, and most games don't actually launch in Game Pass.
Yes.
And if you look at the top paid game section, I can only really speak as to the UK at the minute, but they are hot new releases, right? Which don't launch in Game Pass. So gamers do buy games. It's just that people like to do the whole daily grind and engagement bait for oh, we must hate Game Pass because we're boring. But when it comes to Spider-Man, that would sell millions of copies. Millions of copies. If anything, I think Microsoft and Sony should really work together on this, because they could make an event out of it, right? Have a marketing campaign, have a big thing on the dashboard telling you, hey, Spider-Man's coming, because look, some ports go to other platforms and they don't sell well because nobody knows about them. And that's one of the biggest problems with having these big gaps in between different platforms releasing, right? If you have Xbox coming out day one, saying, hey, you're going to be able to play this game on Xbox and PC day one, all that marketing campaign has Xbox and PC in it. PlayStation, they'll have this huge multi-million-dollar marketing campaign for, let's say, Days Gone in 2019 when that released, I think.
2019. Yep.
Yeah, 2019. They had this multi-million-dollar marketing campaign, which is really cool. And then when it goes to PC, 3 years later, there's next to no marketing on it. There's a trailer on YouTube, and that's it, right? Whereas they could have had the PC stuff plastered all over the ads. So, but if you have everything advertised at once, it works out for them in the end. So, if Microsoft and Sony do work together more on more of Sony's games coming over, it could really benefit them if they market it properly. Like we have heard of some PC games, or sorry, should I say some Sony games going to PC not selling that well because nobody bloody knows about them. It's like the Final Fantasy 16 on Xbox thing, right? No marketing campaign. It had a reveal and an ad. That's it, right? Nobody knows about it. Although it did chart, thankfully. But I think it would do really well for Sony if they put more games on. Look, I've already seen on chat, and I won't mention names because I think it's funny. That you have people they clearly like coping, like because every time I go on social media, every time you see one of these clickbait videos, and there's a lot of PlayStation content out there that they only talk about Xbox stuff, right? Because that's all they have to talk about, right? People have been port begging Xbox games for years, even before the multi-platform stuff. Hey, Phil Spencer, will Starfield ever come to PlayStation? Every bloody interview. And the mere thought of even mentioning a PlayStation game coming to Xbox has these people lose their minds. These like PlayStation brand loyalty is unlike anything I've ever seen before in the worst way possible. Like, boom, you've seen some of the replies I get on social media.
Oh, I saw some of the stuff you posted yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the rhetoric is to the point of just evil. It's not even just being like cheeky Xbot versus Pony or vice versa. It's to the point where this or those people need to be committed. Yeah, not good stuff, dude.
yeah. And like for people that don't know, I told Boom this last night. Like I post, screenshots, trailers of upcoming games on social media, and in the past, certain fan base have had me, they've had my my head photoshopped so it's been decapitated with blood dripping out of the bottom. Right? I laugh now because it's like ridiculous, but at the time I'm like, wow, right? Because there's a lot of psychotic fans out there. That's why I refer to them as Arkham Asylum escapees, because they deserve to be put away, and they talk to themselves. But like the amount of people I just see like losing their marbles at the sheer thought of games going to Xbox. And I'm saying it right now. I'm not going to mention names, but like, what's that term? Coping in season. Like, who cares?
Yes.
Who cares? Who cares if this 6-year-old zombie game goes to Xbox? Who really cares, right? If you're on PlayStation, do you really care? Is anyone taking something away from you? Because we remember we've had people from media outlets literally, ask Phil Spencer in interviews back in 2022, 2023 or whatever, saying, is Starfield going to these other platforms? Is Elder Scrolls 6 going to these other platforms? And any new title they've announced, like, it happens over and over and over again, right? But yet, we mentioned Days Gone, a 6-year-old zombie game, an old game, right? Who cares, right? It'll sell well. They'll generate more money. They'll get more fans, right? I don't see a problem with it, right? I look last year when the whole multi-platform thing came into the fold, a lot of people freaked out. It was the end of the world. The end is nigh, so to speak. But it's 2025. Like, just get on with it. Deal with it. We enjoying games. Like, as someone that covers upcoming games, there's never been a better time to be a gamer. It's a bloody great year for games, and it's going to get better every month. Like, people losing their marbles over that Days Gone thing last night over an emoji, right? People, you had one group of people saying, "Oh, I'd love to play this game on my Xbox," and you had another group of people losing their marbles, right?
Yeah, I don't like. Look, I get it, folks. The console war is fun for some people, and the truth of the matter is that something like Days Gone coming over, Jamie, I think you really put it in the most simplistic but best way possible. What would be the harm of a game that is ultimately going to be 6 years old this year, dropping on Xbox? I mean, I know that a couple of years ago, if you would have asked any of us, any of the OGs, if this was a scenario that we thought could possibly happen, we would have said that you were a lunatic, straight up. Like, it's not even an argument. We would be like, you are bonkers if you think Forza is going to Xbox, right? Now, granted, there hasn't been that Forza moment for PlayStation on Xbox yet. Now, some people will say that's Helldivers 2. I'd kind of push back on that a bit. I mean, Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox is a giant W for Xbox players. And I enjoyed the game so much, double dipped. Like, I bought it on PlayStation happily and very much enjoyed myself. Played with randos, dropped to the planet a couple times by myself, which was very difficult. But I bought an Xbox, and I bought the Big Boy Edition because I really like the game, and I want to support this movement of getting more PlayStation games onto Xbox. And, depending on, depending on who you speak to and your personal opinion, you might have thought that this already happened with MLB The Show or Days Gone. And I could see why you would say that, but that's not the Forza Horizon moment that a lot of people are hoping and waiting for. And I'm one of them. The Forza Horizon moment that I'm talking about for PlayStation to put a game onto Xbox is in the form of their single player games. That's Spider-Man, that's Days Gone, that's pick your flavor. We listen, 3 weeks ago, Jamie, we could have said, well, the industry dictates that this is going to happen. And it would be a theory, it would be a thought, it'd be a drop in a bucket. But that's not the case on August 5th of 2025 because of what happened last week, which sent the PlayStation community into a tizzy. And that is the job announcement or the position announcement of someone that is going to be tasked with making more money beyond the actual PlayStation 5. And I think that day, that Forza Horizon moment that many PlayStation communities are fearing is going to happen. The question, Jamie, what's the first game? Do you honestly believe it's Spider-Man?
I'm torn. For once I've been saying it's either Days Gone or Spider-Man. Spider-Man would make more money.
Oh, yeah,
obviously because it's Spider-Man. But I 100% think it's one of those two. And like, so about a few weeks ago, when Superman came out at the cinema, there was this DC sale on Xbox, and people pointed out like what a sad state the superhero game market is. Because
it's pretty bad.
That sale consisted of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Gotham Knights, and I think Lego Batman 3. There's the Arkham collection in there, but like it's a sad state of affairs. Like superhero games, there's some really good ones you can play, but it's pretty dire, right? So like I think Spider-Man would just like generate so much revenue for Sony because again, the only way to play a Spider-Man game on Xbox is if you have the Amazing Spider-Man 2 on disc, which got delisted like 3 months after it came out. So unless you have that, there isn't really any other way to play it. But I've been going back and forth. I think it's Spider-Man. Like if you want to test the market with a single player game, do you bring over the zombie game or do you bring over a Spider-Man game? It's Spider-Man, right? That would make so much money. And I think that Insomniac, they've already worked with Microsoft before, so like that would make sense. And you have Nixxes, which they have Nixxes, which is a port studio, and they've ported all their games to PC already. So what are they doing? Twiddling their thumbs, doing nothing, right? They have to be porting games to Xbox and Switch. And like, think about this: how much money? And if there's anyone in chat that can like go against this, I'd laugh. Does anyone really think that a port of Spider-Man wouldn't make its money back if it was put on Xbox and Switch too?
Well, the way it was explained to me, Jamie, and I know that we have a couple developers in the chat, Brett Bingham being one of them, and I talk with Brett almost every day. I don't understand the development process. I'm sorry, folks, I just don't. What I do understand is that a game that has already been ported to PC, half of the work that would need to be ported is already done. And a port for said game based on, changing the prompts and play testing and bug testing would be somewhere around 4 months to get a port from PC to run an Xbox Series X and S. That is what has been explained to me. And the person that explained it to me understands how to make a game, and that's all I'll say. So they told me 4 months, then 4 months it is. Oddly enough, Jamie, they're filming the 4th Spider-Man film right now, right? It's on all of the social feeds. I just literally watched a thing of him swinging on this tank thing over, and supposedly the Hulk's in the movie. We know the Punisher has been confirmed for the film. Mr. Negative is going to be a part of the film. There's a Scorpion is coming back with his comic accurate suit. It's going to be a big deal. But more so, next month happens to be September 7th, right? That's in a month and 2 days. That happens to be the anniversary of Spider-Man 2018. Could that be an announcement? Could that actually happen? Folks, look, Jamie's right. He says 5 million. I think 5 million is a drop in the bucket, especially if they do it in a way where it's not egregious. Like, could they charge 70? It's Sony. Sure. But I don't think 2018 is being sold. I think it's $40 if you wanted to buy it brand new. I could see it coming up $50. I can actually see them doing the dual pack that they launched on the PS5. Right? Spider-Man 2018 remastered and Miles Morales 2-pack $70. Sign me up. I'll buy it right now. I bought it originally on the PS5. I'll buy it again on the Xbox. Not even a question. I think that these small attempts of porting games to Xbox is going to pay off dividends for Sony Corp. And again, folks, somebody's going to clip this and be like, oh, look at these port begging Xbox. That's fine if that's what you believe. But at least I buy the games. If I say I'm going to buy a game, I buy the game. Right? You have to understand, folks, Sony is in a position, and I'm not going to use the word desperate. They are a billion-dollar corporation, right? They're not a trillion-dollar corporation, but they're still a billion-dollar corporation. They have to make up the money that they lost, specifically in the last 8 to 12 months. And speaking of Days Gone, that's a game that team was working on a new IP. It's confirmed it's a new IP. It's not Days Gone 2 or a multiplayer Days Gone. It was a new multiplayer IP. I just confirmed it by Ben Studios themselves. And that has been canceled. These are millions of dollars, development dollars gone. How does Sony recoup this money? And how can they do it in a way where it's going to be quick money? Jamie, you just said it. You released Spider-Man. 5 million seller guaranteed. Spider-Man, the biggest comic book character in the world on Xbox. And you know what? Just to harken back, DC has done nothing for the gaming space. I liked Gotham Knights. A lot of people hated it. I enjoyed Kill the Justice League. A lot of people hated it, right? Lego Batman 3, I bought it. I bought all the DLC, but I'm not everybody. So you know what would sell? A new Spider-Man game on Xbox, and it's a new old game. Any final thoughts before we get into the OEM hardware happening next year?
Yeah, I talk about the absolute dire straits of the superhero market on console. Gotham Knights was. Do you know Gotham Knights was originally going to be we were originally going to get a Batman Arkham Origins sequel, right? Called Batman Arkham Insurgency. and then Warner Brothers axed it, and then we got Gotham Knights.
Wow.
And like Gotham Knights, I liked it. I do feel like I forced myself to like a lot of it. Suicide Squad, like the gameplay loop in that game, not having melee weapons, not having melee combat that played like an Arkham game was like just an awful move. Like people are thirsty for a superhero game on console again, especially Xbox. Like we have nothing. Like I always post about Batman Arkham Origins because one, I love that game, incredible. But like there's like nothing to play. Black Panther at EA gets cancelled. Iron Man still in development, thankfully. But like there's nothing. Nobody's bloody making superhero games. And it's annoying. Like if you want something to play, like you might have to crack out the 360 and play something that came out that generation. But like there's not many games. Like Spider-Man would generate so much money for Sony. And like you said, like 5 million sales, I think that's doable. And then you put it on Switch as well. Like ridiculous amount of money, and that's off a video game that's sitting on a server somewhere, right? And obviously you're gonna have the people with the Spider-Man and the profile picture going to be freaking out saying, "No, this belongs to Sony," but like, no, the Spider-Man belongs to Disney. Sony has the movie rights, different kettle of fish altogether. And like, let's say one of these games does come to Xbox this year. Days Gone or Spider-Man, and it does pretty well. Like, is anyone really missing out? Not really. Hell, I get told on a daily basis that Starfield is trash, right? And what I also see by these same people? Oh, I hope it goes to PS5.
Yes.
Right? We've all seen this, right? People are anticipating when this game's coming to PlayStation. It's like, why are you talking about Starfield when it's trash? Like, I've been told it's trash every single day since before it came out, right? Starfield's been trash allegedly since before it came out, which I find funny because like the only Bethesda RPG that people find trash is the one that was exclusive to Microsoft. Bit weird, but
just
look,
odd.
Yeah, odd and convenient. But look, Spider-Man would do well, and like look at Forza Horizon, right? Forza Horizon, I'd say, is the premier racing game at the minute, right? It's an arcadey racer, it's action packed, it's great, and like it sold well on PlayStation. Did it sell well on PlayStation just because it's an Xbox game or because it's just a good game, right? It sold well because it's a good game. There's not really many open world races like that. So like it was obviously going to do well, especially in the UK where anyone could make a racing game and it sells well. But like if people, I keep saying the coping in chat, man, like like it's okay, right? If Spider-Man goes to Xbox, perfectly fine. And you know what? I think that Sony would have a lot of success. Like, look at Helldivers, right? Helldivers 2 came out last year. It did amazingly well. It did even better on PC, as far as we know. The memes, everything about it, like, it was doing really well, right? How much bigger is that game going to be because it gets put on Xbox? I assume it's going to get put on Switch too at some point. It's going to do really well. So, like, for people that are like coping and seething still over this, like, just get over it, man. Right? There's worse things to worry about than a port of an old game going to a different console. Jesus.
You're not wrong. And look, you don't got to worry about me banning you. You got to worry about Lethal Papa because he's a ninja. If you think that Spider-Man coming to PlayStation, Spider-Man coming to Xbox is stupid, fine, have your opinion, put it out there. The whole cope thing, folks, can you grow up? Can you put on the big boy pants? I know they're going to be loose fitting. I get it because you're not fully developed because you keep saying the most childish, ridiculous things, and no names here because we don't want to embarrass anybody, but you know who you are. Stop at the coping. Grow the F up. Okay? This is big business. Okay? Xbox is doing it, and Sony's going to copy. And that's what Sony does. They copy Xbox. And when All of these games go to Xbox and they do really well because, so folks, I said it's a two-way street. Xbox is charting and currently has 6 of the top 10 best-selling games on PlayStation right now. I'm here to tell you that that same conversation can and will be had on the Xbox side if Days Gone, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, The Last of Us, God of War, any of those games, whatever they do decide to release on Xbox, whenever they decide to do it, because it's happening, folks, those games are going to chart. Because the same way you have PlayStation purists who don't have an Xbox, who may not have access to a PC, they're going to be playing these games on Xbox the same way PlayStation gamers are playing Xbox games on PlayStation. It's a two-way street. How much money on who makes more money, I have no idea. Right now, Xbox is making all the money. Sony wants a piece of that, and they have the IP and the games to do it. And if they really want to get cheeky and they really want to tap into how powerful some of these IPs actually are, you know what they would do, Jamie? They would release something like Spider-Man 2018 on the Xbox One X or S, because those games ran on a PS4. So if they really wanted to tap in, most of the games were all made, except for Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank was made for the PS5 because of the SSD. That's fine. Maybe that does not go to Xbox, One X. But Spider-Man could. Days Gone could. The Last of Us, the older Last of Us remake could. So, we will certainly see, again, folks, opinions. You're entitled to them, but come on, man. The whole Cope thing, that's kind of played out. And so are you. So, get a new catchphrase. And then, come back to the big boy table. But before we get to the last topic, and this one we covered yesterday, it was myself, the Chaos Lounge, and Fuzzy. We started talking about the Colt Eastwood video that has made all the waves. Again, Colt makes phenomenal video content, probably one of the best in the business. I mean, it's done in a way where someone like me who does not really have a lot of PC knowledge behind him understand it. And I could build my own if I really put my mind to it, but I have no interest in it. So I like listening to people like Colt Eastwood who kind of knows the business. Well, that particular video has skyrocketed well past 100K, 100,000 views, and for good reason. It was a great video. But before we get to that conversation, because OEM hardware is happening in a big way next year, and from what we understand, it's going to be more than one. I got some thoughts. Got to thank the lone super chat that popped in here. And folks, again, we don't expect anything, but we are incredibly grateful for everything. Oh, you know what? Before I forgot yesterday. Everyone that won a prize on Thursday's X Vlog Live, there was 10 prize winners, 8 regular prizes, 2 grand prizes. I've gotten in touch with everybody so far. Mac22, please either message me on Twitter, of course, that's DMing me. Message me on Xbox Live or email me at the About page. I think that you did. I can't find your email. I need your first and last name and your address to ship the package to you. Please redo that for me. It's been a whirlwind the last couple of days. All of those prizes are going to be mailed out by week's end. Just FYI. We got Mrs. Boom and I are packaging everything up tomorrow, and we're taking everything to FedEx on Friday. Yes, it's going to cost some money. It's part of the business. This is why we don't usually do physical stuff, but this stuff is pretty cool. And the coins are excellent. Coins are a big part of, what makes the Xbox community what it is, thanks to Ben Kenobi and his ridiculous designs. But Jonas the Dad drops a very generous $2 super chat. Jonas goes on to say, Satya could dig in Microsoft couches for change to buy PlayStation. I mean, it's true. We have a gifted sub that comes in the way of Nino Vistic, our generous friend, all the way from Hawaii. Aloha to you, kind sir. Hopefully you are chilling with the family and having really good weather. But appreciate the generosity, Nino, as you do regularly. Yeah, Jonas, I mean, I don't think they want to buy Sony. I think that there is, I mean, there's been some talk in the trades about Spider-Man being sold back to Disney. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, at one point there was desperation. I don't know so much about now because, you know, they did lose a lot of money with all those terrible Spider-Man films. Okay, hold on a sec. There's terrible Spider-Man-less films. You know, Craven and Madam Web and there's a lot of them. Even Venom 2 and 3, not so great. So we'll see. Hey, will the Broke Boy Insider or Do You K Now? The Broke Boy Insider drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Can't wait to get it. Some money for the next one." Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Yeah, you know, we haven't done. Normally we do. Last couple of years we've done about 7. And look, folks, the truth of the matter is that the world is the world. And we, you know, sometimes we dig in to our savings for these contests. Last year was a perfect example of it. We gave a lot away in that October to December. Now, again, this is something that we enjoy doing. So don't get it twisted. We love giving to the community. But, you know, sometimes we overtake these things because we want to give back as much has been given to us. So we have had this contest. We're going to have at least there are 3 big ones happening from September to December. The breakfast, the Boom's birthday bash in September, the Mrs. Boom's birthday bash in November, and in December is the big giveaway. That's our big $1,000+ giveaway. And again, it's just we love doing it because we've gotten a lot of really incredible messages, and those messages, which will always stay true in our hearts and stay private, have saved a lot of people. We feel fortunate enough to be able to give back. Thank you, addition. Will drops an additional. He did. Okay, so Will says this after dropping an additional $2 super chat. Says Mac. Okay, Mac. So I can't see it now because I got 2 screens already open. I will get your information and send you the shipping tracking information once it's out there. So Mac, thank you for that. Okay, so he did. Mac drops a $2 super chat. Says, "Boom! I contacted you on Xbox. Salute, brother. I'll get all the information when we're done here." Jamie Moran, I want to get into this WCCF Tech post, and they had a story that they did. Basically, the story leads and says Xbox's next Magnus APU will provide flexibility for scaling on an entire stack of systems. Now, this is going to mean more for others than it does for me. I'm not a tech head, but Jamie, look, what I'm excited about and what I said yesterday about OEM Xbox devices is this is Microsoft once again changing the industry. Now, the industry is going to change solely for Microsoft. This and what they are doing is not going to affect PlayStation. It's not going to affect Nintendo. This is a power play to involve other manufacturers who are going to ultimately partner with Xbox to have non-Microsoft made Xbox consoles. You know, and why this is super important is because Xbox themselves, Microsoft's console, the rumored, you know, mythical box that's going to do it all, right? The PC underneath your TV. It's going to be an Xbox. It's going to look and run like an Xbox, except it's going to have some back-end stuff allowing you to play your Steam games and your Epic Game Store games and your good old game store, right? Everything is going to be there. All your games are going to be playable. It's going to be on your TV. You're going to feel like a champion of justice, and everybody's a winner, chicken dinner, right? That's the dream. that dream does not become a reality, Jamie Moran, until 2027, where if they stay true to their word, you'll get a Microsoft made console and a Microsoft made handheld. It might be the handheld that is Switch like, where it comes with a dock and you can take it on the go. And it's going to be the X and S scenario that we currently have with the modern generation that we're in. But the OEM hardware is now looking more and more likely to release next year, Jamie. And so all we have is a thought from me that it's probably going to be Asus, right? Because they're working on the handheld, and that is going to be at Gamescom in a big way and release later this holiday, probably October, maybe November, right? Right around the holiday. Makes perfect sense. You're not getting one. I'm going to buy it. And again, I'm going to buy it because this channel is way too small for Microsoft to give us an $800 device. Even though I would talk the hell out of it, I'm going to do that anyway. So I doubt I'm getting one for a review. It's fine. Jamie, I want to read the tweet directly from WCCF Tech, and it really does open up the conversation on what they're doing right now as we speak, when this could come to fruition, and the fact that if it does release next year, will jump Sony by 2 years because their PS6 is not expected until 2028. So this is some wild times that we're living in, folks. Here's what the tweet had to say, chat and Jamie. The Magnus APU, rumored to be powering the Xbox next generation system, will provide a lot of flexibility, allowing Microsoft to scale an entire stack of systems that are more likely to compete with pre-built PCs rather than the PlayStation 6 and other traditional consoles. Now, Jamie, again, there's a lot of info in that little paragraph of words. But if we just look at the playing field, Sony is going to release a PlayStation 6. It's going to be a very powerful piece of hardware. There's no argument from me there. I think the problem with this next iteration of PlayStation hardware, it's going to be a super powerful PS5. It is not going to do what Microsoft is looking to do with the current, with the future of Xbox, meaning that it's going to be an open platform and it's going to allow for the gamer who might be just an Xbox gamer, but will now become a PC gamer. I want to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the story?
It's a weird one because, like, we've seen companies attempt this before. The 3DO back in the day, which tanked for many reasons. The Steam box, that tanked because of various reasons. I've always been a bit wary of the OEM route because we haven't really seen a big company do it in a while. Now, Microsoft, their next gen Xbox is rumored to come out next year, and like you said, they'll have maybe a 2-year leg up on Sony. And if you look at all of my gameplay posts, like, clearly people like push and power, because I always get told the PlayStation 5 Pro version is better. This will be a more powerful Xbox, and people clearly want power at the minute. I think it's really going to depend on how they market them, because if you buy into a console, you want a console-like experience. I'm a console gamer, right? I have a PC. It's for video editing, and I play 2 games on it, one of which can't play on a console. It will never come to console, and I will cry myself to sleep at night knowing that. But that's it, right? I don't want to play games on PC. I like turn on my console, and everything just being there and working. So if they can still have this, console-like experience, but have it set up in a way where you can buy different kinds of consoles of various kinds of power, it might work out for them because my theory for the longest time is that Microsoft's first party hardware, they're going to do two consoles. There's no more S console next generation. You have the main box and you have a first party handheld. If you want to buy something significantly cheaper, maybe the OEM route is the way to do it, because if you're going to have a handheld, it's obviously going to be weaker. So like if you could maybe have, let's say, Asus make a weaker home console that's basically the same as the handheld, just without the screen and all that stuff, they could sell it super cheap, and it could work out really well for them. But I personally feel that the OEM route is a bit risky.
It is, sure.
But I mean, I will say this: it's nice to see some risk. Gaming is kind of stagnant, in my opinion. Everything's kind of safe. Like it's like in games, we get sequels and reboots and remakes, right? There's no risk in AAA basically anymore. In hardware, taking risk is well riskier because these consoles cost billions of dollars to R&D. So like, if they could have something that'll like actually work business wise, then cool. But for me, I'm always going to go after the console made by Microsoft. Maybe it's that part of my brain going in because like, when you're a kid and you had a secondary controller, but it was made by like some company no one's ever heard of. Like that's how I feel about OEM stuff. I'm just trapped in the past, but like a Mad Catz controller. But hey, I'm interested to see what Microsoft does, because if they do have a 2-year leg up on Sony, they can experiment with some wild stuff that we don't even see. Maybe things on consoles that we don't really have anything to do with, let's say, games. Like maybe there's, unique control methods. Maybe, some consoles ship with a keyboard and mouse so you could play RTS games or whatever. Like, I think that, especially we're going to be living in the realm of, opportunity. People are going to have their Epic stores and Steam stores on their consoles. Like there's a lot of games there. And then you also have VR, right? So maybe you're going to have like an OEM Xbox made by Asus that can access the Steam store, and you have your VR library there. So you could play, let's say, I don't know, Half-Life Alyx, right? That could work out well for them.
That'd be amazing.
And, let's look at the PC handhelds, right? Are they really going to stop at the ROG Ally? Like, there's tons of companies making PC handhelds. I'm betting a lot of companies out there want to slap an Xbox logo on there, make some extra money.
Yep.
It could work out well for them. And the handheld space is growing pretty fast, So we will see. I think that Microsoft just has to be careful because again, the 3DO and the Steam box failed for a few reasons. Hopefully, Microsoft doesn't repeat that mistake. I don't think they will, but it should be interesting.
I mean, look, there's something to be said about OEM hardware as a whole. Like, I don't know if we are close to or even remotely close to a realm where there's going to be 17 different Xbox consoles available on power ilks that go from, bargain basement to redonkulous. I know that specifically AMD themselves has specifically talked about working very closely and to great degree with Asus or Asus, right? We know that Microsoft, and more specifically Xbox, is working closely with both AMD with Magnus and Asus on the handhelds. If I was a betting kind of a guy, I would imagine that the first piece of OEM hardware in the form of a console is probably going to be AMD and Asus related, where the three companies are going to work together, they're going to put out a box, and they're going to sell it. Now, I'm sure that this particular conversation that we just have is going to raise more questions than answers. And I say that because a lot of people are probably, if they're not have said it in the chat, and maybe I missed it because I'm on another page, But they're like, well, if this console comes out next year, why does Microsoft need to make a console? Well, Microsoft needs to make a console because they can subsidize, even though a lot of people don't believe subsidization is going to happen with these next consoles. And I kind of in that camp as well. But there's ways for Microsoft to have it at a gamer's price versus a PC price, if you know what I mean. OEM hardware is going to be based around PC specs and PC price. The next Xbox in 2027, which could be this, Magic Box and this dockable handheld. Again, I really believe that the two SKUs that they're talking about that has been rumored in the tech conversation is going to be an X and S situation where the portable is going to be dockable. And I think it's going to be very Switch-like, not in power, but in form factor. I think that the next Xbox-made console is going to be for Xbox gamers. We will see. It's going to be a very interesting time for Xbox and its gamers and what the hardware looks like in the future. Again, like I take now that's the thing. The PlayStation 6, I want people not to misunderstand me here. That thing is going to be, it's going to be expensive, but it's probably going to be worth its weight in gold because it's going to be a powerful console. Sony is not going to put out a bomb of a console. They're just not, folks. I know for console war rhetoric, that's fun, but they're going to put out a powerful console. They are. They need to, and they're going to deliver for their fans. Now, will I be buying one? Well, probably not, and not for console war rhetoric, because if this Magic Box allows me to play Steam games, and I honestly believe that Sony is not, I don't think Sony is ever going to get day and date on Xbox and PlayStation. I believe Sony's going to get to a point where it is day and date on PC and PlayStation. That makes a lot of sense. And again, if we go based on trends, look how well Helldivers 2 did. Helldivers 2 sold over 12 million copies on PC. Now, if it would not have sold on PC, that game would have not been, heralded as this incredible multiplayer game that was only available on PC and PlayStation 5. PC did the heavy lifting. Their games are good. I know a lot of people are going to argue with me on it. PlayStation makes good games, man. They just do. And maybe they're not for you, but they're for me. And I think that there's clear evidence that a PlayStation game that releases day and date on PC will do better than a game that's released 2, 3, 5 months, 6 months, a year later. It's just the numbers are there, folks. But we will certainly see. This has been a great 90 minutes. Shout out to Jamie Moran carrying carrying me here. I don't mind the two-man podcast, but of course I miss Umbra's Thought and Theories, and we should get that on Friday morning on Breakfast at Boom. He usually, when he misses a Tuesday, he's always chomping at the bit to join us on that morning show. So I think he might be able to join us on Friday. If you missed any of of his antics, tune in Friday. But Jamie Moran, let me catch up on Super Chats, and we will get everyone on out of here. Hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you enjoyed today's podcast enough to hit at least the like button. And if you're feeling super generous, share it out on the socials. And if you're not already subscribed, ladies and gentlemen, we're at 16.1, meaning that we are 900 or a bit short of, 8 and change, give or take, to hitting 17K. And like I said, we can get there with your generosity by simply just subscribing to Double Barrel Gaming. Mrs. Boom and I would be greatly appreciative of that. But Music 72 also reminds me that Mac22 has in fact messaged me on Xbox, and he dropped a very generous $2 super chat. So Music 72, thank you for the note, and of course, thank you for the generosity, and appreciate you being here as you always are. Cheese is Nasty drops not one but two $5 super chats. The first one, he says, in my opinion, the Switch like Xbox will be next year, and the regular one in 2027. That would be wild, dude. That would be, absolutely wild if the holiday was the OEM hardware for underneath the TV and the cheaper model, the little brother model, but it would be the actual Xbox Series S dockable mobile handheld. That would be kind of dope, dude. I like what you're putting down there. His second $5 super chat says this: both companies are using AMD for the next generation console, so there's going to be a different. So, is there going to be a difference spec wise? It's interesting. Hargeet Chani put a super chat, a $5 super chat in yesterday, and he broke it down where I believe he said that the PlayStation 6 would be 30 something teraflops. I think it was 32. And that the Xbox, whatever they call it next, would be 50, 51 teraflops. Again, I don't have his super chat in front of me. They're gonna be similar in specs, I would imagine, in power, because AMD is working with both. I don't know what one is. What Magnus is doing something different than what PlayStation normally does. At least how it's been explained to me. You know what I'm going to do? Let me take a screenshot of this because I want to further this conversation. Hold on just a second. Okay, so Cheese is Nasty. Tune in tomorrow to Primetime Gaming. I'm going to write an original topic based on your super chat. And the reason why I want to do that is because we will have Hargeet Chani a part of the show. And he's the one that could probably answer better than I certainly can. And of course, Kay Asante is going to be there, two tech heads, which is why I love having them on the show. So Cheese is Nasty, I'm going to use your super chat as one of the conversation pieces for tomorrow. Again, Primetime Gaming, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe that Hargeet will be able to break it down in a much more understandable way than I certainly can. Will the Broke Boy Lewis drops an additional $2 super chat. Yes, I did. Nico, who I talked about in the beginning, he says, have you seen Nico's mansion in Grounded 2? Wow. Yeah, him and his 9-year-old have been destroying that game. I saw a quick picture of it. It's pretty unbelievable. Like, oh, wow. I mean, look, that's what gaming's about, folks. I know that the console war is fun, and for some people, they take it uber serious. It's not that serious, folks. It's these companies don't even know who you are, man. Don't get into fights and arguments and threaten people over video games. Don't do it. Play games. Enjoy games. I did have footage running, and I don't know what's going on with my PC. I don't know if it's the PC or the service. It's been really wacky. That's why you see our two mugs up here. I'm playing a new game that I wish I could have shown you that, like Greedland, I'm addicted to like virtual crack cocaine. It's called Achilles Survivor. It's another Survivor game like Vampire Survivor, except it has realistic graphics and it's Greek mythology. Holy shit, ladies and gentlemen. Please go check out that game. I've been tweeting about it like a lunatic. I don't get anything from these companies, but I do enjoy these games. And oh my God, it's so good. It's called Achilles Survivor. It just released, I think, last week. And of course, Mafia Old Country releases this week. I can't wait, Jamie Moran. That's going to be so freaking good. I know people are trying to poo-poo on it because it's only 10 hours. I don't play games like that. It's going to probably be 20 hours for me. But thank you, everyone, for the super chats. Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate it. Everyone that did win a prize, if you didn't hear earlier, they're all going to be mailed out by week's end. And hopefully you enjoy the prizes. Share them on the socials when you get them. I will send everybody their tracking information. I am sending them via FedEx because I don't trust anybody else. Jamie Moran, let's sell the brand, brother. You have a show happening this afternoon with Logan Meyer on the Tuesday edition of the All Things Xbox podcast. And I am sure that you have a load of topics to get into. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel? And more importantly, tune in to this evening's show as well as follow you on social media.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure. So yeah, my YouTube channel is The Elusive Gamer. I exclusively cover Xbox. There's no clickbait, no fanboy stuff, and all things Xbox podcast is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. So far, we have 11 topics to talk about tonight.
Holy matrimony. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And, you know, we're going to be talking about a lot of Battlefield, a lot of Exodus. We're going to be talking about The Expanse of Cyrus Reborn, which I'm fanboying out so much over. It's just Mass Effect, really. But we're going to be talking about all that. I recently put out a video of 10 biggest new games coming to Xbox this month. And there's actually 12 games on that list, and all of them are yet to release. So if people are interested, that video went live the other day.
Nice.
Hope people enjoyed that as well. So yeah, and the podcast again is at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight on the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel.
Well, thank you so much. And again, folks, I don't know how soda got involved in the conversation. If you're wondering what I'm drinking, it's wild cherry. It's water. It is 0 sugar, 0 calories, 0 caffeine, 0 sodium. So I'm heavily into the gym, and the only soda I drink, I know people, they call me Dr. Pepper. I haven't actually had a Dr. Pepper all year. I drink 1 8-ounce glass of sugar-free ginger ale with dinner. After that, it's water all day long. I used to drink soda when I was a kid. I don't drink soda anymore. It's fine. But shout out to Smokey, 18th. And that's the other thing, folks. I know that a lot of people like really bummed about your names being changed. I can't change it back. This was done by YouTube, and it was due to their new cursing policy, and I don't know if they're ever going to change it back. So if you're wondering how, like, I know people's icons. I know it sounds crazy, like Abacab72. His name is totally different, but I know his icon. Most people, like Rick L in the chat, it's Rickard 1235. I know your what your pictures look like. I mean, I do this 5 days a week. If I didn't, I'd be a shameful host. Most people I know. Some people I don't. So if I try to respond to the name, but if it's not your name, just message me. Say, hey, Boom, this is whoever, and I'll try to get it done. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us for 90 minutes. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. I had a lot of fun. I am going to cut this up into smaller videos. And hopefully, if you didn't catch us live, you catch one of the videos. And we cut out all the nonsense in the middle, so it's just a usually 10, 15, 20, 25-minute video. But of course, yes, Thanaros, YouTube's the change. I don't know what they did. Normally, when people would be in the chat, their name would just be there. They'd be like whoever they put in there. For some reason, they made this update to the cursing policy. I know Jamie's been pretty bummed about it. Ridiculous nonsense that YouTube does. And when they did that change in policy, somehow it changed everyone's name to this new thing. Like, I'm at Double Barrel Gaming. I don't have at Double Barrel Gaming on X or Twitter. I can't. It's too much. I have the Mr. BoomStick XL. That's enough. You know what? I'm glad I saw this at the last minute. J-Mac in the chat, generous friend of the program, which, by the way, happy birthday. Just had a double nickel. So you're a pinch older than me. I'll be double nickels in September, which is next month. Happy birthday, or happy belated birthday, J-Mac in the chat. He drops a very generous $5 super chat. J-Mac says, shout out to Double Barrel Gaming, Mr. Boomstick and panel. Salute, gentlemen. Hashtag graybeards are in the building. Indeed, they are. But, brother, thank you so much for the generosity. Happy birthday to you again. Hopefully you had a great day. And, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close out today's show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.